Happy Ace Attorney Day. Happy Apollo Justice Trilogy release day. Or well, I guess technically it's the day after, but you know what I mean. Hi, and welcome to more Great Ace Attorney 2. Okay, so yeah. It's plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table and chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling. Before falling straight down onto the floor.
Every item in the room was on the ceiling? Are you suggesting that?
Indeed. The key here is gravity. This is such a cool effect. I love that they're getting more creative with these, because Sherlock Holmes' mind palace, but actually good this time instead of, you know, BBC Sherlock Holmes. It would appear that technology has at last succeeded in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. For the gravity in this room was reversed, and then suddenly restored to normality.
Goodness.
The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. I quite understand your skepticism, Miss Susato. I too was incredulous at first. However, my conviction in my analysis was cemented when I observed this. An anti-gravity device, almost identical to one that featured in a dream of mine only the other day, in fact.
But then why does it have a clock on it?
A most relevant question indeed. That is a timing device that controls when the gravity direction will switch. There was clearly a requirement for the engineer to be able to restore normal gravity automatically. And the commotion we heard earlier from the other side of the door was the moment this restoration occurred. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device. Sorry, give me a sec. I swear I didn't eat dry food. So you see, we need to look no further to explain the state in which we now find this room. The direction in which gravity acts in here was reversed by Mr. Drebber, before being restored to normality in an automatic fashion sometime later by the timer device. I have witnessed precisely the scene in a dream I once had when I fell out of bed. Now, let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Indubitably, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads.
Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there on the ceiling?
A question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madame.
The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Of course, Drebber's aim was singular to escape. However, there is but one way into this room, excepting the skylight, that is. Ah. Ow. By inverting the gravity in here, Drebber was able to fall conveniently to the ceiling and make his escape via the otherwise inaccessible skylight, leaving those footprints behind on the way. But the ceiling here is very high, Mr. Sholmes. If the gravity reversal was sudden, wouldn't Mr. Drebber have fallen up to the ceiling rather violently? Falling up is both scientifically and philosophically a rather interesting concept, I feel. But the man was cornered with nowhere to run, so escape through the skylight was his only option. You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Oh, the rope. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? By anchoring one end to the wall, the man was able to lower himself safely to the ceiling. Which explains how Mr. Drebber, Which explains how Drebber was able to escape this room before our arrival. He reversed the pull of gravity and fled via the skylight. And personally, I should very much like to reverse the pull of gravity again now, just for fun. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. He's completely spellbound. Mr. Sholmes, there's just one thing that troubles me. I would expect nothing less. You're destined to be troubled by just one thing for the rest of your life. He's not wrong. The thing is such a thing actually possible? An anti-gravity device, I mean. I would say that with man's current scientific knowledge, at the turn of the 20th century, it's no more possible than instantaneous kinesis. Your whole deduction hinges on it. Ah, but my dear fellow, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth, however improbable it may seem. It's a marvelous line, wouldn't you agree? It's one of my more enduring pearls of wisdom. I had Iris come up with the exact phrasing. My original was clumsy. Yes, I have a feeling I've read it in something that Miss Susato lent me once.
Objection!
Actually, there is one other thing, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, the spell's broken at last.
The rope you found was on the floor, wasn't it?
Indeed it was. It was, in lonely coils near the wall.
But if Mr. Drebber had used it to escape the way you described, wouldn't it still be tied to the wall?
Mysteries inevitably unravel at the end, as I think you'll find. Do ropes. What? Oh. Okay.
That's a weird sentence. It's okay. This is supposed to be as do ropes, but he's like, as I think you'll find, do ropes. As evidence of such, you need only look at the mystery we faced in this room, now skillfully unraveled. That argument is as circular as the coils of rope.
I think perhaps we might need to give Mr. Sholmes the usual helping hand. I'm sure with some minor corrections, the great detective's great deduction will lead us to the truth.
Yes, you're right. Must do it quickly before Enoch Drebber gets too far away. If you're ready, then let us resume. Sherlock Sholmes's logic and reasoning spectacular. I think Drebber's in the safe. That's my thought. It's plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table and chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down onto the floor.
Every item in the room is on the ceiling. Are you suggesting that...
Indeed. The key here is gravity. It would appear that technology has at last succeeded in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. For the gravity in this room was reversed, and then suddenly restored to normality.
Goodness.
The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business.
To think gravity could have been reversed in this very room, I find the whole idea utterly enthralling. Only Mr. Sholmes could conceive of such an explanation.
The man himself admitted it was a scientific impossibility, so...
Yes, you're quite right. We must completely discount the idea at once.
Oh, that's unusually merciless of you, Miss Susato.
When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. The great detective himself said so, didn't he?
While refusing to part with his dreams of anti-gravity devices.
Yes, I suppose so.
Well, let's see if examining this topsy-turvy scene a little more closely reveals some proof that shows exactly what the gravity in this room was or wasn't doing. Oh well. Wasn't expecting to find a pretty bunch of flowers in here, that's for sure.
Ah, look at that.
I know. That slender little vase looks like it's about to topple at any moment. Flowers are thriving. Somehow it makes you think of the fragility of life, wouldn't you say?
To be honest, Mr. Naruhodo, something else about it made a rather deeper impression on me.
Take that!
The upright vase clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, you've surpassed yourself by completely turning my argument on its head. Trying to impress your assistant here, perhaps? No one's trying to steal your spotlight here, Mr. Sholmes. Trust me. As you rightly say, though it appears at first glance that all the furniture in the room is upside down, this unassuming slender vase is standing keenly to attention. And unlike the large safe, there's nothing affixing it to the floor. Oh, the safe is bolted to the floor. And And it's the explanation that breaks the rule. In short, as much as it pains me, the gravity in this room never was inverted at all. My deepest sympathies for your loss.
Oh, poor Mr. Sholmes.
But the show must go on, so let us continue with our deductions. Now that we know this contrivance is not in fact an anti-gravity device, there remains but one other possibility. You don't say. Someone deliberately turned over every piece of furniture in here. Which might sound obvious, but leaves one mystery very much unsolved. Namely, why would anyone choose to do that? Quite. And naturally, there is an explanation. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device. He's absolutely determined that this device must have something to do with it, isn't he?
I'm afraid the lure of an exciting scientific explanation is too strong.
Well, there's no doubt that somebody did this. Somebody turned all this furniture over. So whoever did it must have had a reason.
I'm afraid nothing comes to mind at all.
Well, let's look around and see. Or let's look around and see if the answer presents itself. Well, look, there's something written on the underside of this armchair.
Oh yes. Safe 432582.
Safe? As in safe and secure?
As in secure lockable box, I think.
Admittedly more likely.
Well, there's a large safe bolted to the floor on the other side of the room, so yes.
You mean this number would let us open it?
I wonder why it's written here, though.
Take that!
Yes. The reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the safe combination. Precisely. I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that you had a very similar experience once, did you not? Yes, last year. When I bought a lottery ticket and noted the ticket number down on the inside cover of a book, just in case. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart. Always make a written note of important information.
Just keeping the ticket itself safe would be more sensible, I think.
And what, pray, happened next, Mr. Naruhodo? Day of the draw came around. I'd forgotten which book I'd written the number in, and had to turn my room upside down to find it. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart, and always forget where they've noted things down.
Not if you always note things in the same place.
I actually won the second prize, you know. I couldn't remember which magazine I'd slipped the ticket into, so I had to turn my room upside. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo, but I believe I've proved my point now. Which is that a very similar scenario has clearly unfolded in this room. Finding himself requiring access to the safe, the occupant of this room needed the combination code. He remembered that he'd written it on the underside of a piece of furniture, but forgot which one. Leading to the state in which we now find the room. Yes, Mr. Drebber overturned all the furniture in here, in a desperate hurry to locate the combination code that would unlock the safe.
Sorry I keep having to pause.
Now, let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Indubitably, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes.
Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there on the ceiling?
A question whose answers will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madame. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight.
Well, if a change in the direction of gravity can't explain it, then how did those footprints get there?
Yes, I feel as though that particular mystery has become even harder to solve.
I can't think of any other way to explain it at all. Oh, life was so much simpler in those halcyon days when gravity could be reversed.
It was minutes ago, and those halcyon days never existed in the first place.
Well, I suppose we must simply put our faith in Mr. Sholmes and observe the area in more detail.
Putting our faith in Mr. Sholmes is what gets us into these situations in the first place. It's hard to believe, but there's a shoe up there. Look.
Oh yes, and there are more footprints on this little balloon, too. Perhaps the shoe was thrown up there and became lodged, do you think?
If so, then judging from the number of footprints, it must have been thrown up several times. Why would anyone be throwing shoes up at the ceiling, though?
Oh dear. That's beyond me, I'm afraid.
Take that!
The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby shoe.
And on closer inspection, there are clearly footprints all over the balloon as well. In other words, the aim was never the skylight at all, but the balloon.
But for what purpose?
A green balloon. That seems somewhat familiar data. Ah,
It was a piece of a green balloon, it was a piece of a green balloon's envelope that Mr. Naruhodo and Iris found at the scene.
Inside the green balloon that Master Gotts claims he saw above the stage when the incident occurred. It's the second birdcage, crux of the whole instantaneous kinesis deception.
You mean to say...
if we assume the balloon in here is a model of the one used on the day, there's a strong possibility something may have been concealed inside it. Or may be concealed inside it. Something our absconder was desperate to retrieve before making a hasty getaway. But the balloon's out of reach. Hence why he resorted to a projectile, namely the shoe. Ah. Most probably, Drebber intended to tear a hole in the envelope by assailing it with the shoe. However, his efforts were thwarted when the shoe itself became a prisoner of those lofty heights.
Oh dear. We desperately need to examine that balloon. If only there was some way we could see inside.
You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution.
Oh, the rope.
To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope?
Mr. Sholmes has managed to bring the deduction back to the rope.
Alright, I have to admit, that was clever. So we just throw the rope up to the balloon and then pull it down to us on the ground?
Which is much easier said than done, I feel. And could take us a very long time as well.
True. Perhaps we need a more surefire method. In fact, we already have one, of course, don't we?
Take that!
To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this crossbow?
That was found at the scene, in fact.
And in all likelihood belongs to Mr. Drebber. If the man had only brought it away with him that day, he could have avoided losing a shoe at such a critical time like this. So, shall we? Your curiosity is deeply stirred, no doubt, my dear fellows. What is it that Enoch Drebber has hidden inside that balloon? What the? A waxwork? Indeed it is. A waxwork head inside a metal mask. A mask that's shut tight and fastened with a strong and quite impenetrable lock. So I can't see the face inside, that means.
Just a moment. This is the head of a waxwork model? Does that mean... Oh goodness.
I see you've joined the dots, Miss Susato. Excellent. Ah, of course. Headless waxwork model. Case of the abducted Madame Two-Spells model that you'd largely solved. It was only the head of the killer that was still missing. Indeed it was. But I believe Madame Two-Spells will now have to settle her sizable account with me. This, as you have now surmised, is the head of the infamous professor. Yes.
But why is it here?
Hey Nautilus, how are you doing? This conclusively confirms my suspicions. The man responsible for stealing the professor from Madame Two-Spells. Oh boy, Squiggles isn't here today, you got the first. And returning it sends... Teat? Earlier today was none other than Enoch Drebber. Also, how is the bomb? You mean anti-gravity device. This is incredible. Professor Hairbrain's case and the waxwork abduction they're Okay. I've always had issues with this word. Is this supposed to be pronounced inextricably? Or is it supposed to be, like... What is it? Inexorably? I think inexorably might be a different word, but I think people use them interchangeably to the point where they, like, say inexorably instead of inextricably. Well, it appears our logical pleasure cruise has come to an end, my dear fellows. All that remains is, yes, to speak with the architect of this adventure.
The architect?
You mean Mr. Drebber? As it seems quite impossible that he escaped via one of the skylights. Obviously, the man must still be here in the room.
What?
And his location should be abundantly clear. If you simply reflect on the journey we've made together during this deduction. Enoch Drebber is right here, somewhere in this room. So, Mr. Naruhodo, will you do the honors? Yes, of course. Mr. Drebber's hiding place must be the...
Take that!
Before we gained access to this back room, we'd heard noises from in here. Which tells us that the engineer was still in the building at that point in time. he was in fact searching for the combination to his safe. And pressed for time, he made no attempt to right the furniture he overturned in the process. From which we can deduce that his search for the combination happened very recently indeed. In summary, Mr. Enoch Drebber is at this very moment inside the safe. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps it's time we ended this game of hide-and-seek, don't you? By opening the safe, you mean? What else? Let's see. Combination was
432582.
I knew that. Alright then, here goes. Found me. I like that hand. Right then, sir. Mr. Enoch Drebber, I presume. Correct. Better start talking. You tricked Professor Hairbrain with that bogus machine you built.
And you shall have to explain the theft of the waxwork from Madame Two-Spells as well.
Whilst I would be delighted to answer your many questions.
I think I'm gonna go with like a whispering voice for him.
Personally, I would advise that you deactivate my little parcel first. Deactivate?
Your parcel?
I refer, of course, to the time bomb. I left it in a most prominent position.
Ah,
I see. Stunned silence. You're all gearing up to die with me, then?
no. Mr. Sholmes, with only 7 seconds to spare.
You totally did do the thing that we were talking about yesterday, where he left it.
That was too close for comfort. I've got one foot in the grave already. Trying to help us get a killer, get us killed.
Mr. Sholmes' deductions can be completely life-altering, can't they?
Well, my dear fellows, that was a close shave. The resemblance to an anti-gravity device is really quite startling, I must say.
Anti-gravity devices don't exist.
Ew, I wouldn't push it, Mr. Sholmes. What on earth happened in here? You've found me, haven't you? No need to screw me down any further. Everything in here is precisely what it seems. Yeah, we'll be giving it a thorough going over. Don't you worry, Drebber. What fails to click with me is how you were able to locate my workshop. That I was not expecting. When I heard whistling from the other room, I knew it was time to bolt.
Whistling?
Ah, that would have been me.
Oh,
For some reason, I woke in fine fettle today. No words, just tightly squeezed chips. Clearly, I must have a screw loose, though, as though I couldn't remember the combination for the safe. And another one loose, as I couldn't remember on which piece of furniture I'd written it down. I also found a rope over by the wall. Yes, I had hoped to exit through the skylight, but sadly the rope was too short. So I then set about searching for the combination code to open the safe. And burning the incriminating blueprints, don't forget. Regrettably, though, you failed to retrieve the head from the balloon among the rafters. After that, you hid yourself inside the safe? Having first set this parcel ticking. Well, I had no intention of being nailed by the police. Got a death wish? Got a death wish, have you? Been right beside a ticking time bomb. Please, why do you suppose I chose to hide inside the safe? It's no ordinary safe. It's specially designed. A dynamite explosion wouldn't leave a scratch on it. So, in fact, the safe was the only safe place. Precisely.
but once you'd climbed inside, you wouldn't be able to get out again.
There was a... I was about to say, there was a valve on the inside for unlocking it.
I invite you to look more closely. The safe is fitted with a handle on the inside to allow the door to be unlocked from within. Ah, so it is. I had always intended to blow this place to smithereens in any case. I just wasn't expecting uninvited guests to come along and screw up with my plans.
You mean to say, planning to blow this all up, or us all up?
No. That was unforeseen.
What do you mean?
Most people run, you see, when they see a ticking time bomb at their feet.
Ah,
I calculated the time required for retreat to a safe distance and set the device accordingly. But your seemingly endless discourse in here threw a spanner in the works. Is something wrong, Gregson? Do I have something on my face, besides the usual eyes, ears, nose, and mouth?
we have a fairly good idea of what's been going on here now. What about the two incidents you've evidently been involved in recently? Professor Harebrain's instantaneous kinesis experiment at the Grand Exhibition. And waxwork model you stole, which this head belongs to.
That's no ordinary head, you know. That's the head of the professor. Clad in a mask with a lock so strong, I'm unable to open it. Unable to open it safely to reveal the killer's identity. I've been considering carrying it around as protection. After all, that's enough. What's going on here, Gregson? I'm sure you're aware that I have sole jurisdiction to investigate here.
Yes, well... Dr. Scythe again. The forensic investigation team are here.
And you know full well this engineer is a key witness. Why are you allowing this lawyer to access him? If Lord Strongheart knew of this, you'd be finished. You lot, leave at once.
My dear madame, there's no need for such a threatening tone, I assure you. After all, that's no way to greet an old acquaintance, Is it Dr. Scythe?
Hello, Sholmes.
Mr. Sholmes knows Dr. Scythe? If it's protecting the machine next door that's causing such sour expression on your face, you are quite misguided. It's really nothing more than a shell.
Get out.
But of course, we will show ourselves the door. I see you haven't softened at all. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? It would appear that our delightfully entertaining investigations have run their course for today. But Mr. Sholmes, let us leave this place in the doctor's capable hands.
I said get out, now. All of you. Your presence here is not required either, Gregson.
Understood. I'll just say one thing before I head off. If it wasn't for this lawyer and his companions, I'd never have found this place. The whole workshop would have been blown to bits. The time bomb set in here, and this lot disarmed. Inspector. Something giving you a chuckle, has it, Dribber?
So sorry. Didn't mean to offend. You're quite right, of course. You did disarm the time bomb, didn't you? Yes, you did disarm that one. Eh? What are you? That one? You mean?
Oh, shit. It was an hour later that we heard the news of the enormous explosion that ripped through the experimentation stage at the Great Exhibition. Professor Harebrain's invention and all its secrets were blown away forever. Wow.
Good morning to you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Ah, good morning, Professor. Ready for today's proceedings? Yeah, and this guy's gonna be a witness.
I hope so. I should be. Even I, with nothing left to...
Good morning, my dear fellows. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you're here, for once. Why, naturally. A true gentleman stands shoulder to shoulder with his friends in battle at all times. Thank you, I really appreciate it. I'll see you later, then. Now, Professor, we really need you to remain calm in the courtroom today.
Yes. Do try your hardest not to enter the witness stand uninvited again. Yes, I will. I realize it was a mistake, but
My dear fellows, I must interject. Oh, you're still here, Mr. Sholmes. What's the matter? Surely you've overlooked some praise, have you not? To be cast on my direction, Sorry? I don't follow. I love... Okay, genuinely, I really love how Sholmes is characterized in these games. Because, like, he's a goofball, and he draws very incorrect conclusions a lot of the time. But the games also don't... He's more Sholmes than Holmes, yeah. Like, the biggest thing that I really like about Sholmes is that while his deductions aren't always, like, good, he's still, like, what's the right way of phrasing this? He's still smart. It's one of those things of, like, he's smart to the point where his intuition leads him past the answer rather than to the answer. And I'm very glad that these games, I mean, didn't go the route of just absolutely basically making him incompetent. Like, most of his deductions aren't great, but, like, you know, he can still play the violin, he still invents stuff, he made forensic stuff before, you know, it was even an actual thing here. So, he is genuinely a smart dude. It's just sometimes his deductions aren't great. Sorry? I don't follow. Must I spell it out? I, the great Herlock Sholmes, the greatest detective of worldwide acclamation. Arose at some ungodly hour to be here now. First thing in the morning. A miracle, you must agree. Well, if I must agree, then... As you know, my sleep is quite impregnable. Iris had to employ her full gamut of tactics. She pulled the covers off, shook me, poked both cheeks, punched me, and kicked me from bed. Then she poured a boiling cup of her latest experimental blend in my face, and at last I was bestirred.
Oh my, Iris has been busy.
Iris doesn't have it in her to go that far. She's too nice. Ah, I sense the spirit of a fellow scientist, one who relishes the infinite possibilities of blending tea. I'm the one worthy of praise here, not Iris. This is my victory. Sorry to cut in. Yep. Oh, Inspector Gregson. Good morning. Gregson, my dear fellow, why the grim expression at this delightfully early hour? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I've been confronted with a grimmer expression, eh? Dear me, are you going to take that insult lying down, Professor? What? I don't know! Poor Professor. Why, here's the paperwork you asked for. What paperwork? Ah, I took the liberty of requesting it yesterday. I have a feeling it may prove useful. Wouldn't believe the hoops I had to jump through to get this brought out of the archives. The professor's autopsy report. Ooh.
That mass murderers.
We killed 5 members of the aristocracy. I'm guilty in a closed trial 10 years ago now. It was all under wraps. He was quickly executed soon after the trial. It's all in here. I don't know what to say. Thank you, Inspector. Yes, much obliged, Gregson. Slowly lot of the art are just doing what we can. The shadow of the legend of the great detective Sholmes, of course. Honestly, like, here's the thing. Sholmes, for some reason, in this game, gives off kind of similar vibes to some incidents in the crossover game. The whole package, investigation and trial. Well then, Professor Hairbrain, this is it. Today we're going to lay all this to rest at last.
I wish you the best of luck, Professor.
I suppose he'll be in there today, will he? Drebber.
Yes, we expect the prosecution to summon him as a witness.
I'm still amazed that you managed to find him in just one day. I really owe you both so much. Counsel and the defendant. Trial is about to resume, and then make your way to the courtroom at once.
The bailiffs have very inconsistent voices.
This is it then. Final chapter. Funny, my heart's racing a little. Not felt this before, actually. This strange foreboding. As if something's going to happen in this trial that I'm not ready for. But I can't let that distract me from the only thing that really matters. Finding the truth.
Oh, yeah.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the public hearing of Albert Harebrain, here present, who stands accused of murder. Counsels for the prosecution and defense ready to proceed. The prosecution is ready, my lord.
The defense is ready, my lord.
As promised, Lord Van Zeeks has his apprentice with him. His apprentice with memory loss. I may, Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, my lord. Appears to be someone standing at your side. Yes, my apprentice and assistant. The prosecution believes today's proceedings will see the complexity of this case rise considerably. I therefore instructed my assistant to attend to ensure the smooth running of the trial.
Hey, Squiggles, how are you doing?
And the smooth running of liquid refreshments, by the look of it.
The way he holds himself, the way he moves. It couldn't be anyone else.
He's still suffering from amnesia, so there's really nothing we can do at the moment.
I know, but... oh, this is so very hard.
The masked dude? The current Susato and Naruhodo are like 100% convinced that, that is Kazuma, who died, in quotation marks, in the second case in the first game. But, essentially, it was revealed earlier in this game that his body never made it back to Japan. And that, like, there has been no concrete evidence that he is actually dead. So,
it would appear the prosecution has done a fine job in responding to the demands of the court made yesterday. I understand you have successfully secured the engineer who disappeared from the scene on the day in question. Yes, my lord. I intend to call him as a witness shortly. Very good, very good. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this courtroom today. Are you ready and willing to proceed? Of course, my lord. I'm sure we all understand the importance of doing our civic duty.
why is the court allowing a masked, unnamed person as a legal assistant? I mean, yeah, Lord Strongheart also said so. Also, it's not exactly uncommon, I'll say. Because Godot in Trials and Tribulations is wearing a mask for literally the entire game. And he's the prosecutor in that game.
I do so despise deception and deceit. I find it so very wearing.
To take a man's life with a conjuring trick, it's against the magician's code, not to mention the law.
2 lawyers, no less, have a sword on the courtroom, yeah. The Godot mask thing is like a disability, though. Yeah, I guess that's fair. That is like a seeing aid, isn't it? A fake scientist should feel the wrath of God, if you ask me.
We have to listen to what's said on both sides. Both sides of the fence, and then settle on one. That's it, right?
It's like this at night, eh? Like this at all.
Yes, this is still the hairbrain case, and there's at minimum 2 more cases after this. I don't know if Great Ace Attorney 2 followed in the footsteps of Ace Attorney 5 and 6 and had 6 cases. Franziska and her whip is more of a concerning factor. What about Black Quill with his fake sword that was originally going to be a real sword in concept art? His fake sword that can cut real things.
All parties are ready to proceed. You may begin, Lord Van Zieks. Before I do, my lord, there's a report I must read to the court. Yesterday, at the Great Exhibition grounds, the evidence of primary importance in this case. The super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine, which was installed on the experimentation stage.
Except it cuts things, like, it cuts Apollo and Phoenix's hair without Taka moving at all. Also, how much of a nerd does that make me that I remember the name of Black Quill's hawk?
Was deliberately destroyed in an explosion affected by an unknown person or persons. Was what? Explosion? This is an outrage. Your Honor, I hate to inform the court, but we have a prime suspect for who blew up the, what is it? Super high voltage something kinesis device. And her name is Iris Wilson. Yes, I heard the grave news yesterday. Scotland Yard submitted a report to my office in the morning, or in the evening.
Wow, how did I get that wrong?
I read the machine was blasted to smithers. The wreckage reduced to ashes in the flames. I have here the photographic print of the scene taken in the wake of the explosion. It shows what little remains of the machine. Yes. Terrible business.
Did it to destroy the evidence, did he?
That Enoch Drebber.
What will take this print as evidence, counsel? Late yesterday afternoon, protection afforded to the machine by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act was revoked. However, before thorough investigation could begin, the invention was obliterated from existence. As such, this will become a very different trial.
Do you think Van Zieks practices his posing, like, in front of his assistant when he's in his office?
As it stands now, with no evidence on which to draw meaningful conclusions, the authenticity of the kinesis machine will remain forever in obscurity. Indeed. Most unfortunate state of affairs. However, one thing remains clear. victim's death was the result of the actions of the accused. Of that we can be certain. For it was the accused himself who was operating the machine, and who ultimately caused its loss of control.
Objection!
As Lord Van Zieks rightfully says, this is a very different trial now. The accused accepts responsibility for his part in the events that transpired. He acknowledges that Mr. Assman died as a result of the accident caused by his machine's malfunction. However, unbeknownst to the professor, he was being deliberately deceived by a pair of very clever fraudsters. Names, counsel, if you please. I do not, please, Your Honor. The engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, and the victim himself, Mr. Odie Assman. So what exactly were these two men up to behind the defendant's back? He's got amnesia. Because the incidents in case 2 of the first grade Ace Attorney did happen. Like, he did get pushed and slam his head onto the bedpost that we thought broke his neck in case 2. But if this is Kazuma, the assumption is that he hit his head on the bed frame and got amnesia, and Sholmes lied about it and covered it up, basically, for some reason. Defense intends to expose that information, thus establishing the unequivocal evidence of the defendant. Damn, we really going for the amnesia plot point? It wouldn't be the first time. Case 2-1. The first case of Trials and Tribulation, or not Trials and Tribulations, Justice for All gives Phoenix amnesia. So you can have a second tutorial case. The defense intends to expose that information, thus establishing the unequivocal innocence of the defendant. Counsels, the positions of the prosecution and defense have been clearly stated. There's also a case of that in Dual Destinies, but I don't want to talk about that because I want to stream Dual Destinies, and Apollo Justice is probably next after this, like Ace Attorney game-wise. Not directly next. Hell no, I'm not doing 2 Ace Attorney games back-to-back, but... Lord Van Zieks, summon your first witness, please. At once, my lord. The prosecution calls the engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, to the stand. Fuck, why are so many games coming out? Squiggles, stop tempting me. Because we've got the Apollo Justice trilogy that came out yesterday. We have another code, the dual pack that came out yesterday as well, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to stream those games because I have heard nothing but good things about the Another Code games. And then Persona 3 Reload comes out in a week, and... State your name and occupation for the court. Name, Enoch Drebber. Occupation. Hard to pin down, I would say. Honestly, I really like that. Like Monocle?
Yes, why do I feel as though I've seen him somewhere before?
Too, that exact same feeling myself. I really like I like Drebber's design. He gives off the right vibe. Profile indicates that you are currently being investigated in connection with another case. The theft of a waxwork model, is it? Most extraordinary sounding business. Yeah, I really like his mechanical arm. But that has no bearing on this trial. I assure you, cleave it from your mind. You are familiar with the public experiment carried out at a great exhibition some days ago. The accused super high voltage instantaneous kinesis demonstration.
Yes, you could say I'm aware of it. There was a terrible accident, wasn't there?
It was you, Mr. Drebber, who constructed the vast machine used in the experiment. Or so our investigations indicate. Can you confirm your involvement?
It's because the mechanical arm is cool.
Yes, I constructed it in precise accordance with the blueprints. But that's all.
Then the court would be very interested to hear your thoughts about the machine, I'm sure.
An amazing device, if you ask me. The pinnacle of modern science, making instantaneous kinesis a reality at last.
What? Good gracious. You mean to say that the experiment was bona fide? Is that your belief, sir?
Yes, that is very much my belief. Such a waste that it blew up.
Objection!
But we've already established the machine was nothing more than a prop for an elaborate conjuring trick.
Objection! You've established nothing of the sort. All that was shown during yesterday's proceedings is that the same outcome could have been produced by means of stage trickery. The defense merely proposed a method and demonstrated its feasibility. Nothing more.
But...
We've procrastinated long enough, I feel. Witness, you'll now give your formal testimony about the machine that you constructed for the purpose of the demonstration at the Great Exhibition.
Understood. I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Assman's introduction. He provided me with the blueprints and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads, and then crash headfirst into the crystal tower. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science on which the machine was built was flawed somehow.
A body double?
That goes without saying, surely. To give the impression that something is moved when in reality it hasn't, it's a basic conjuring principle. The deception cannot be achieved without substituting the original with a fake at some point in the performance. But I would be right in saying, you haven't managed to establish anything along those lines.
Incidentally, the prosecution has already confirmed that Mr. Assman had no twin siblings. It's my understanding that the witness is well versed in conjuring artfulness. Such talents do not indicate that he was actually able to accomplish what he claims. Namely, the construction of what, by all accounts, must have been an extremely complex scientific machine.
Whatever do you mean?
Yesterday's proceedings brought the true nature of your past exploits to light, Mr. Drebber.
Indeed it did, my lord. As a swindler who preys on innocent scientists to elicit government grant money through conjuring know-how.
Yes, it's true that I possess considerable knowledge of stage magic. But crucially, my scientific knowledge more than matches that of any academic in the field.
Investigation of the witness's workshop attests to that claim, my lord. As evidence, the police found this Royal Scientific Trophy for young talent in science there.
Yes, that's true. We spotted it there ourselves. If a hypothesis is sound, it can always be forged into a physical manifestation with sufficient skill. Though I may have sold the secrets of some deceptive wiles to sniveling, talentless scientists in the past.
Therefore assert that the explosion of the machine was
An unfortunate accident. Or, of course, a deliberate act of murder carried out by misuse of the science.
for the defense. Your cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord.
Honestly, there's a part of me that thinks that Drebber and Scythe might be related.
I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Assman's introduction.
Hold it!
Are we just gonna ignore the part where he blows up a place? Yeah, the worst part about that is the fact that he admitted to it, and Gregson and Gina were there for that admittance. But I guess this is also like knowing how Ace Attorney games tend to work. Even if they had brought it up, they probably would have brought it up, and then Van Zieks would have shot it down instantly with the "he's not the one on trial here" argument. So you were already acquainted with Mr. Assman himself?
Not really. By chance, I'd seen his name mentioned in the papers, that's all. But I had no interest in his private affairs. If he was an unscrupulous investor, it was of no concern of mine. As long as people pay their bills, I take up my tools and construct what they ask for.
So why did Mr. Assman approach you in particular, then?
Who can say? I presume because my name is associated with excellence in engineering.
Not to mention excellence in fraud.
Hard to gauge, but the point is, all I did was construct the machine according to the blueprints I was given.
In other words, the kinesis machine was built on solid scientific principles.
Yes, you might say that. Professor Harebrained certainly has a mind like no other.
Also, am I being too quiet with Drebber's voice? Do I need to, like, change it a bit? Or is it still at a reasonable volume?
He provided me with blueprints, and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick.
Hold it!
It's clear that you both have scientific knowledge and knowledge of conjuring magic, however.
The more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to handle whatever comes along. But your implication is that I furnished the machine with some trickery, I think.
It's a possibility that we have to explore.
Unfortunately, though, the machine has been blown to Kingdom Come. So there's really nothing left to explore, is there?
Appears that the kinesis machine was fitted with a timed explosive device of some kind.
And there's nothing left of that device either. Not a single shred of evidence remaining, I hear.
Must have planned all this from the outset.
But in any case, it's abundantly clear that the experiment couldn't have been a trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin?
Okay, I need to take a look at some of my evidence, because some of my evidence we haven't really looked at. Oh look, the cover came open.
Yes, now there should be a glass plate inside. You have to change the plate with each new photograph you want to take, you see.
Something wrong?
There's no plate. It's been removed.
Ah, what a pity. I suppose if you think about it, this wouldn't be the actual camera that was used at the time, just like the waxwork isn't the actual person. So we'd never have found a photographic print of the executed convict coming back to life anyway.
Oh, yes, you're quite right, of course.
Poor Susato-san, she looks devastated.
What a wonderful machine.
You really love contraptions like this, don't you?
Oh, yes. Anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible.
Almost irresistible, surely.
Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart.
That's worrying.
Yes, Father tells the time by the rumblings of his stomach now. He's given up on having a watch.
Poor Professor Mikotoba.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo.
What is it?
On the bellows just there. There seem to be some very dark red stains.
Yes, you're right. Looks like blood, actually.
Oh my.
I'm sure it's not what you're thinking. This piece of glass is almost as thick as it is wide.
Yes, I've never seen anything like it.
If you were to compare it to a human, only Mr. Sholmes has such thick skin.
There's really no need for such a comparison, Mr. Naruhodo, as you well know.
Anyway, it can only be from the Crystal Tower, surely.
Yes, I think so too. It was probably made especially to meet the demands of that great structure.
There's a little metal plaque here, look. Fostering burgeoning talent for the future of scientific discovery.
It seems rather ironic, doesn't it?
But clearly Mr. Drebber was a very talented scientist. That was the wrong button. We really not have anything to look at here? Oh. This lock does look very strong, doesn't it? There's definitely no way you could remove the mask yourself if it was put on you.
What a terrible way to treat someone. Even a convicted criminal.
I know. It's starting to make me livid, actually.
Mr. Naruhodo, please.
I mean, just think about it. Imagine if you had an itch on your cheek all of a sudden. You'd be utterly helpless.
Well, yes, that's true. But I'm not sure that warrants quite so much anger.
Oh, right. Sorry. Ah. Professor's name is redacted out.
If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin?
Hold it!
Of course, that's it. Mr. Assman was a twin.
Objection!
Perhaps my learned friend wasn't listening earlier. Mr. Assman had no twin siblings. No, I heard you before. But the thread of hope hadn't quite left me.
The demonstration could have been a trick if there was somebody who looked sufficiently like the victim. But Dr. Scythe absolutely ruled that out as a possibility.
It's beyond question that the victim himself, Mr. Assman, did move from the stage to the Crystal Tower. The fingerprints found at the scene attest to the fact.
So it can't have been orchestrated using someone who looked identical to Mr. Assman, then. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh, no, nothing. Just that the idea of someone who looked identical to the victim is playing on my mind.
All the spectators saw the birdcage, all the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads, and then crash headfirst into the Crystal Tower.
Hold it!
I'm sorry Drebber's voice is a little bit inconsistent. It crashed headfirst, you say?
According to the many witness reports from those there at the time, yes.
Were you not there at the exhibition grounds on that day?
Unlikely. I rarely leave my workshop.
Yet another of your unique inventions was found at the scene.
Well, it was the unveiling of a machine I'd labored over for many months. I saw it clearly with my own eyes, the birdcage plummeting headfirst into the tower.
What a surprise. Slap him in cuffs. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I believe the victim's neck was broken from the headlong fall, wasn't it?
How would you have come by that information?
Even an infernal recluse like me reads the newspapers, you know?
Trevor seems like a perfectly well-functional human. Hey, Sachi, how are you doing?
According to the reports, 2 injuries were apparent on the victim's body.
Yes, he'd been stabbed in the chest by a screwdriver, believed to belong to the defendant. And he had broken vertebrae as a result of a fall from a considerable height. Correct. My learned friend has been doing his research, it seems.
Do we know which injury was the fatal one? Doing all right. I'm overwhelmed by how many games are coming out that I want to stream, because we got the Apollo Justice trilogy that just came out. There's the Another Code games that I want to stream, and Persona 3 Reload is coming out in a week. And the thing that the biggest thing is that I set aside my Christmas paycheck from working over at the theater and was holding on to it in case something like big came by that I wanted to grab. And I ended up, I guess I'm gonna announce this now, I ordered a 3DS capture card the other day. So that should be here in about a month. But it was expensive. And it's like the instant I spent a large amount of money, it's like, oh shit, I did very poor planning. All of the games are coming out all at the same time. But yeah. so look forward to, honestly, I think the first thing that I'm likely to stream on it is probably going to be Fire Emblem Awakening. Just because I've had a really big thing in my brain where I've been like, I really want to play Fire Emblem Awakening again. But yeah, that's supposed to be here by, like, around the end of February. Because it's a whole... Just decided you have to budget for a weekend D&D getaway. But here's the thing, you may have to budget now, but that'll be really fun. D&D is always fun. Do we know which injury was the fatal one? Sadly not. Forensic science is not yet at a level where such things can be determined. Also, I hate Blender. I think I said this last stream, but I finally managed to get the hat attached to the top of my model. But, the stupid thing about it is that I think I've, like, modeled it in a weird way, because what does Blender have to do with forensic science? It's where... it's where they put all the juices. Don't you know? I managed to get the hat to attach to my model's head properly, but, for some reason, there's like one chunk on the back part of the hat that just does not function properly when I import it. And it's frustrating. Oh, that sounds fun, Squiggles. What we do know is the victim died, having sustained both injuries at some point during the experiment. And since he was found in the birdcage with his neck broken. Castle in Pennsylvania, wow. It's obvious he fell from a considerable height. I suppose that's hard to deny. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science on which the machine was built was flawed somehow. Do we not have the partially burnt schematic for the, So this is a crash head first into the crystal tower, but the damage to the birdcage is on the bottom of it. Plane tickets are nearly $600. Oof.
Objection!
We've examined the birdcage that crashed into the crystal tower ourselves. As you can see, the cage, which is a wooden construction, has sustained damage on one I nearly said particular spot. Following the explosion, it fell some 30 feet to into the glass of the crystal tower. That level of damage is to be expected, surely. Don't call me Shirley. I agree. The damage itself is entirely understandable. What doesn't make sense is the location of that damage. Our learned friend mispronounced a word. I win. Judge, hand him an L and pronounce the defendant cringe. "30 feet is like 10 meters. Yeah, that's about right. Because a yard and a meter are about the same length. All the breakages in the wood are at the base of the birdcage, not the top. What are you saying? That's the opposite of where they should be.
That's right, my lord. The birdcage that was at the scene is damaged at its base. So we have reports of the birdcage falling headlong into the Crystal Tower, yet the damage is at the bottom. Love how Drebber keeps speaking things in red for no reason, yeah. The only way to wow. Judge, prepare to hand him another L. The only way to reconcile these two facts is to accept. There were two bird cages in play that day, which were at some point switched. Switched during what wasn't a scientific experiment at all, but an elaborate piece of stage trickery. Why was half of that word in red? Good gracious. Explain yourself, witness.
Well...
If we examine the facts, there's only one logical conclusion we can draw. The damage on the base of the birdcage clearly indicates that it crashed tail first into the tower.
Objection!
But multiple witnesses' reports claim it fell head first. The birdcage materialized in the sky next to a balloon flying over the stage following a spontaneous explosion. At an altitude of some Your Honor? Prepare to hand Van Zeeks an L. At an altitude of some 60 feet above ground level. Drebber, stop speaking random words in red. You're not Beatrice, the Golden Witch. Hey, I understand that reference. I've never interacted with that series.
Which is approximately 18 meters.
I've never interacted with that series, but, I've heard that it's very good. It then proceeds to fall some 30 feet into the Crystal Tower, and the ensuing deflagration. Deflagration is a good word. Witness reports amid such chaos are notoriously unreliable.
Objection!
But the victim's neck was broken.
Objection!
He plummeted 30 feet inside a heavy wooden cage. However he fell, it would be unsurprising to find one or two of his vertebrae crushed.
A riveting scientific analysis of events from the prosecution there. Though to be even more rigorous, you would have to say it was only one vertebra, actually.
Wasn't quiet for long.
I find it hard to see what's motivating Lord Van Zeeks. The witness is clearly a swindler and one who deceived a personal friend of his.
Drebber doesn't laugh normally. He just says ka. Yeah, I can see it. You're going to establish this deception. Do it right.
I'm sorry?
I feel like that's the undertone here.
Ah, yes. And there's one more point. The defense appears to have forgotten. It obviously wasn't a trick, as a certain truth very plainly demonstrates.
What? It seems to me that this cross-examination had better continue until we resolve this matter. Mr. Drebber, you will amend your testimony with details of this truth.
Of course. We must treat the matter scientifically, after all.
Ugh. Nearly had him there.
The kinesis clearly took place, because there's nowhere else 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen from.
I think I'm supposed to present the whole. This one?
Objection!
What?
The defense would have to object to that last statement, my lord. I would have to override your objection, counsel. You didn't even listen to me, buddy. The defense would have to accept the penalty given. Glad to hear it. And you would also have to think again, hmm?
Hold it!
What do you mean? Well, before the demonstration began, the victim was alive on stage in front of the audience. Yes, there are lots of witnesses who saw Mr. Assman on the experimentation stage, that's true. And the victim's neck broke as a result of an impact following a fall. Logically, therefore, the victim must have fallen from somewhere. The balloon that exploded was at an altitude of 60 feet. The point of impact on the tower was 30 feet up. That difference of 30 feet is therefore the total distance the birdcage fell. And there's no other location from which the cage could have fallen that distance if it didn't drop out of the sky. Ergo, the victim himself must have been beamed from the stage into the sky above the crystal tower. Mentioned scientific analysis. Dear me, every time I hear it explained, it sounds increasingly plausible. Oh yes. It's all very well thought out.
And certainly all the spectators on the day saw it. The birdcage plummeting 30 feet through the air, I mean.
Irritatingly, yes. Sec. Sorry about that. Trevor has deep. I like that it auto-corrected to Dresser. Dresser has deep eyes like Ultima from 16. Yeah. Yeah. A terrible accident, I'll grant you. Perhaps the science on which the machine was built was flawed somehow. I don't know how you want me to say your name, but welcome in. M31.
Hold it!
So you understood the science, did you? Not in the slightest. So Mesa? Not in the slightest. Oh, right. As I've said a number of times, I'm an engineer. My job is to manufacture according to the blueprints I'm given.
I would be inviting manifold problems if I foolishly allowed my brain to digest the ideas behind them.
Also, I just realized this guy is built like a KH character. He's got like 5 belts on one arm.
I could be accused of stealing those ideas, for example.
But how is it possible to construct a machine without really understanding the principles it relies on?
Well, you're practicing law without really understanding the principles it relies on, aren't you?
Very good point.
Stand up for yourself, Mr. Naruhodo.
It's very Nomura, yeah.
The point is, the experiment resulted in instantaneous kinesis taking place. As such, the science must be sound.
Yes. And really, experimental results are all that matters when it comes to proving a hypothesis.
I think he's a real robot, yeah. He's certainly very sure of himself.
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, now that the machine has been completely destroyed by yesterday's explosion, it's going to be impossible to argue its authenticity one way or the other.
But if we're unable to establish that it was a piece of stage trickery rather than the genuine science, we'll have no grounds on which to demonstrate Professor Harebrain's innocence.
Both Mr. Assman and this man in the stand tricked the professor and used him. They took advantage of his naivete and his unbending belief in his work, and I won't let them get away with it. And seeing as the professor is an old friend of Lord Van Zeek's, what on earth must he be feeling toward Drebber? Okay,
Hold it!
I've already pressed this, Kinesis clearly took place because there's nowhere else 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen from. I kind of want to send the balloon piece, but I also don't know if the game will understand what I'm trying to say by sending the balloon piece. I think it could be the photograph of the balloon.
Objection!
Nope. Is Gregson smarter than 3 gay rats? We'll never know. Pine, I think you'll like this guy's design. He's got a robot hand.
Objection!
Nope, not that. Nowhere else 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen from. One day you'll have a robot hand and then they'll let you into the cool kids lunch area.
Objection!
It's the ledge up above the thing. Either that or it's one of the balloons. This is a diagram of the experimentation stage and its surroundings. We know that somehow the birdcage appeared in midair before falling down into the crystal tower. A fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters. That math is wrong. That math is just factually incorrect. 30 feet is 10 meters. We went over this. However, if you examine the diagram carefully, you'll see that there's one other possible location from which the birdcage could have fallen. The same distance of 30 feet. No. Well, it appears the defense has a possible explanation to put forward. Go ahead, counsel. Yes, my lord, of course. Indicate the place to which you are referring on the same diagram. I nearly read that as diaphragm. The alternative location from which the birdcage could possibly have fallen the requisite 30 feet.
Take that!
Place I'm referring to is here. That's where the birdcage would have been to begin with. Which is exactly the point, my lord. Yes, the birdcage was in the machine on the stage. But what we must also consider is the height of the stage itself. Go on, counsel. It turns out that the experimentation stage was built at a considerable height above ground level. If you look at the diagram, in fact, you'll see it's about the same height above the ground as the balloon was above the crash site. When the experiment got underway, the machine and the birdcage were engulfed in steam. At that moment, the floor of the stage gave way, and if we assume there is to be a void underneath, this birdcage and the one seen by the audience would have fallen almost exactly the same distance. Also, I have to say, the picture should have counted. The picture of the hole under the machine should have counted. Once again, my lord, this all points to the fact that there was not one birdcage, but two.
Objection!
You love Van Zeek's doing the JoJo pose? Yeah, he is JoJo posing. My learned friend has no evidence that the stage had such contrivance in its design.
Someone is responsible for the criminal destruction of the kinesis machine itself, it's true. However, the stage still stands. And take a moment to look at the photographic print of the scene following yesterday's explosion. Good lord, metal grill that formed the floor of the machine is undone. Yes, most likely blown open by the force of the explosion that destroyed the rest of the machine. The defense calls for the space below the stage to be investigated immediately. Mr. Drebber. It was you who built the kinesis machine. Also, I just realized what Drebber's mechanical hand reminds me of. It reminds me of Cloud's gauntlet from Kingdom Hearts 1. If that makes sense. It's I think it's Vincent's gauntlet from FF7, because that's like the whole idea behind that design of Cloud in KH1 is that he's supposed to be a mashup of like all of their designs. It was you who built the kinesis machine. Which means that it was you who built the 2 bird cages that were used to carry out this deception. Whether Professor Hairbrain's hypothesis is sound or not makes no difference. Because it's the construction of this machine that matters. A machine designed to take Mr. Assman's life. And lay the blame firmly at the professor's door. Something that could have only been carried out by you, Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Objection!
If my learned friend has reached the end of his wild assertions, the prosecution would like to crush the defense's argument slowly, but surely. What? Your argument fails to hold water. On 2 counts.
2? Every... Okay, maybe this is revealing a lot about my KH brain rot, but every time I see the word 2 by itself in a text box, it always reminds me of the bit from the very start of Kingdom Hearts 2, where Roxas pulls out 2 keyblades and Axel just goes, 2? It's burnt into my brain.
Firstly, before and after the experiment, this witness went nowhere near the kinesis machine.
Oh, come on. Really? I just got, like, I took a sip from my water bottle, and when I moved it back, it sloshed water up and got water on my glasses.
Every relevant member of staff from the exhibition has attested to that. I believe members of Scotland Yard have also been on watch duty in every public experiment. In other words, Mr. Drebber had no opportunity to switch the alleged pair of bird cages.
Objection!
But I've already explained why he wouldn't have needed to. The nonsense with the crossbow, that doesn't bolster your case at all. The man who disappeared from the stage and the man who crashed into the tower are one and the same. Forensic investigation team's report is unequivocal on that point.
Because they're a plant. made to make me look bad. Ah.
And the second flaw in your assertion is a distinct lack of motive. Why would this man have wanted to take the victim's life? He had no reason to do so.
A motive? Do I have to think of everything myself?
I have here a contract provided by the witness. What contract is this, Lord Van Zieks? The contract into which Mr. Drebber entered with the victim, Mr. Assman. It reads, Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from government grants or other income. 30%? Certainly very favorable contractual conditions. But there was one very important provision bolted onto that clause.
What provision?
Mr. Drebber may only uphold his right, this right, on condition that both contracting parties are alive.
In other words, if either of us were to die, the contract would become null and void.
Ace Attorney and their obsession of making the defense, both the defense and the prosecution. The absolute worst part is when they throw the whole thing of, oh, you know, the person that you're accusing has no motive, when the person that you're defending has no motive either.
So you see, I had nothing to gain from Mr. Assman's death. The diametric opposite, in fact.
Who would win, Drebber or a coughing baby? Drebber did set up time bombs earlier, so I don't think Drebber would lose. If you're going off of the coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb matchup.
Need I say more? The witness had neither an opportunity nor a reason to commit the alleged crime. In short, the possibility of Mr. Drebber having done as you suggest is nil.
Van Zieks, I love you, but like, can you stop crushing my argument so thoroughly? This isn't how you get your boyfriend back. This is how you get your boyfriend sent to prison.
It seems the defense's assertion was somewhat wide of the mark. Lord Van Zieks, you will submit the contract as evidence, please.
Yeah. It's true.
Investor, Mr. Odie Assman.
Wiped my glasses, but I still have something on my glasses. Love to get Van Zieks' blood alcohol content by the end of a single case. Let's see, the investor, Mr. Odie Assman, hereby enters into a contract with the provider, Mr. Enoch Drebber, to fund labor and materials for the construction of a super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from government grants or other income. Mr. Drebber may only uphold this right on the condition that both contracting parties are alive. Do you think that Van Zieks' bloodstream is more alcohol than blood? Oh, we don't have the business card anymore. I was gonna check the signature. Why did the resolution on that picture go down? Alcohol is basically his blood. Do you think that, do you think that because this is like old time or turn of the century London, do you think that it's like high quality alcohol, like super high alcohol content? Or do you think that it's like not super high because they haven't figured out how to properly like make ultra high alcohol content stuff yet? I actually don't know when that was found out, like how that was figured out to be done, but it's true. He's like Godot with coffee. Though Godot also drinks far more coffee than Van Zieks does wine. Drebber had no opportunity to switch the birdcage under the stage with the one in the Crystal Tower. He couldn't have done it. And in any case, I have no idea what his motive might have been. Just some awful alcohol and opium cough drops. Hey, Pantstravaganza, that's a great name, by the way. How are you doing?
There's one aspect of your argument that still holds true, however. There were 2 bird cages. The prosecution is unable to deny that.
Ah.
So I'm sure you're on the right lines, Mr. Naruhodo.
Looking at his blood alcohol content is like, there's blood in my alcohol. Humanity and booze are synonymous. Beer is literally older than written history. Yeah, that's fair, actually.
And I have no doubt that there are other aspects of your assertion that are undeniable truths, too.
Well, that would seem. We figured out how to make it stronger before we figured out steam engines. Defense has no rejoinder to offer.
Well, I must say I'm a little surprised. I came here to testify about the machine I built, and instead my reputation is defiled. But the prosecution's counter has set the record straight, I think. It's impossible that I'm the culprit.
Objection!
At the beginning of this trial, we believe there was only one birdcage. Yet now we know there must have been 2. In other words, there was more to the demonstration than we realized at first. I think it's abundantly clear that the same applies to the culprit. Get to the point. The stage demonstration was constructed and set up in its entirety by you, Mr. Drebber. Therefore, it's inconceivable that you had no hand in the events that transpired. So if circumstances mean it's impossible that you could have carried out the crime yourself, it points to the fact that someone else was involved. What else? Counsel, are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. Mr. Drebber had an accomplice.
Objection!
An accomplice now? Well then, I presume you're prepared for what's to come. Now that you're accusing not only this witness, but someone else of the most serious of crimes. If these accusations turn out to be false, I'm gonna mute my mic while I adjust it real quick. I was trying to make a small adjustment to my mic to make it pick up my voice better, because I looked over at the readout on OBS and it wasn't reading out as loud as I would have liked it to. But, apparently I've, like, over-tightened my mic somehow.
Then make no mistake. The prosecution will demand an equally serious punishment for your slander. Well, counsel, you intend to pursue this course and formally accuse another party of involvement in this matter. What do I do here? At the moment, this is a little more than a hunch on my part. I don't know for sure if Drebber had an accomplice, or even if he really is the culprit here. One way or another, though, I have to make my position clear, as a lawyer. So what's my stance going to be? Did Drebber have an accomplice, or not? Gina Lestrade. Also, give me just a moment. Defense is ready to name Mr. Drebber's accomplice. Somehow the two bird cages must have been switched. Everything points to that. And according to the coroner's report, that's not a possibility. That inconsistency itself is a clue. Counsel? My lord? Received a stark warning already. You are nevertheless determined. I must now ask you to identify this alleged accomplice by name. So, your answer, please. You claim to have been Mr. Drebber's accomplice.
Take that!
The name of the person in question is... What's wrong, my Nipponese friend? Surely fear doesn't bind your tongue now. It's a little late for that. Of course I'm afraid. After all, naming her in this capacity is definitely going to make waves. A lot of waves. I could very well turn every single person in this courtroom against me.
I'm sure it will be all right, Mr. Naruhodo.
Thank you, Miss Susato.
The enemy always appears larger than life, but you'll appear exactly the same to the enemy.
All right then, here goes. You've kept us waiting long enough. Your answer, counsel.
Naruhodo accusing every British official speedrun. 100%.
Person who colluded with Mr. Drebber in order to carry out this wicked crime is Scotland Yard's coroner, Dr. Courtney Scythe. What in blazes are you talking about? Dr. Scythe? The head of the forensic investigation team, and the coroner who conducted the autopsy on the victim. We know there were two bird cages, so who could have carried out the switch to complete the illusion? The accident happened in front of a huge crowd of spectators, and the area was immediately sealed off.
Cheese and wine. Oh wait, I thought you just said what do you think Van Zieks would eat at 3 a.m., not what kind of cheese. I feel like Van Zieks would either really like... I feel like Van Zieks would either like really strong cheese or like very, very mild cheese. Like, he'd either want something really sharp or he would want like brie. One of the two. The accident that happened in front of a huge crowd of spectators, and then the area was immediately sealed off. Then everyone, police officers included, were banished to make way for the forensic investigation team.
what else could the switch have, or when else could the switch have occurred? It could only have been in that team's presence.
I feel like Van Zeeks is a Gouda kind of guy. Gouda's good.
It's essential that the court determines exactly what happened following the incident. The defense demands that Dr. Scythe be summoned to the witness stand at once to testify.
A nerve, lad. Standing up there, dragging the Ard's name through the mud.
I didn't mean to...
I know the woman very well. There's no better dead room worker out there. How dare you call her a criminal?
My learned friend's imagination appears to be wilder than the East End at night. But the recklessness of your accusation aside, there's another grave problem with your argument. One which the prosecution demands you address at once.
Grave problem?
Oh my word.
Who do you claim acted as the victim's doppelganger?
What?
Certainly, if the birdcage containing the body of the victim was exchanged for another.
Yeah, he did accuse Gregson. Well, okay. He kind of accused Gregson. He more said that he was committing perjury and forging deals behind closed doors, but
Certainly, if the birdcage containing the body of the victim was exchanged for another, that cage must also have contained a body.
and yet, no missing persons or accidental deaths of anyone, even remotely resembling the victim, have been reported. Which means that there was no one, dead or alive, who could have fulfilled the role of a body double for Mr. Assman. That's true. My argument is that there were two bird cages, then there must also have been one person inside each. But I don't know if I've got an answer to this yet, have I? What can I do to reveal how this body double stunt was achieved? Present evidence. Very well. The defense will address my learned friend's concerns by presenting evidence that reveals the true nature of Mr. Assman's body double.
Good gracious, evidence? I do hope it isn't filibustering, counsel. The court is expecting a name.
You think you have relevant evidence? Present it now. The body double and the birdcage were hiding inside the balloon that was floating above the stage, which means that any witnesses would only have seen them from 60 feet away. So who was it that appeared out of the explosion and some 18 meters above the spectators? Aha! The body double inside the second birdcage was...
Take that!
We know that the victim, Mr. Assman, was in the birdcage that was situated inside the kinesis machine on stage. And therefore, he couldn't have been inside the second birdcage. Instead, that contained something else. What's been described as a body double, which is what fell from the sky and crashed into the crystal tower.
Yes, counsel, according to your somewhat elaborate version of events.
And that body double inside the second birdcage was, in fact...
It's all right, Mr. Naruhodo. You're ready for this. Just steel yourself and come out with it.
Thank you, Miss Susato. I needed that.
Evidence in my courtroom? Travesty!
Yeah. As I was saying, the body double inside the second birdcage was, as unbelievable as it may seem, that thing there. Where did that come from? Does Naruhodo have the ability to summon wax figures?
Objection!
Open your eyes and look into mine, my Nipponese friend. Now tell me, do you feel the same way about me that I feel about you?
Has that just been sitting there the whole time? Metal as fuck courtroom, yeah. Sholmes dragged it in there while everyone was arguing. He saw it coming and was like, ooh, this needs to be out there.
What are you playing at?
Stand firm now, Ryunosuke. This is the time to show your Japanese spirit. As the court will observe, this is a waxwork model. A model, in fact, of an infamous London murderer from 10 years ago, the Professor.
Objection!
You started by indicting the leader of the forensic investigation team as an accomplice to this crime. Now you've moved on to indicting waxworks.
Yes, that's about the size of it.
But why? And why this waxwork? It looks nothing like the victim. In fact, it could hardly resemble him less. What possible justification can you give?
If you want to know why, ask Mr. Drebber.
What?
Just days before Professor Hairbrain performed his public demonstration, Mr. Drebber abducted this model from Madame Two-Spells.
Did you say abducted?
That wasn't quite your voice, but... And 2 days after the incident at the Great Exhibition, he returned it to the museum.
Then, the timing. Is this true, Mr. Drebber?
At first, I couldn't see why Mr. Drebber would have stolen the waxwork and then given it back again. But now, the reason is clear. He took it so that he could put it inside the second birdcage as a body double for Mr. Assman.
Objection!
Are you hearing this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Are you hearing the defense's astonishing proposal? That the witness fabricated this vast machine with the intention of deceiving some wretched scientist. That he did so in collusion with the country's finest coroner, on a public stage. In front of a vast audience. And that to effect the deception, he used a waxwork model that in no way resembles the victim. Are we really to believe that this far-fetched tale? What do you decide?
Objection!
I need a game like this that lets me do that, where you, throw it at the jury. Wait. Yes, if you put it like that, of course it sounds implausible.
Lord, need to speak, if you please. Go ahead, Mr. Foreman. Myself and my colleagues reached an agreement. Very good. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings for the court to hear now.
Guilty!
Guilty! Guilty!
Guilty!
Guilty!
Kill me!
Every child's gotta have a summation examination.
So, as indicated by the foreman, the jury has reached a consensus.
I knew that was gonna happen.
We shall get through this, Mr. Naruhodo, as we always do. And uncover some new truths along the way, I'm quite sure.
Yes, I agree. Going to have to appeal to the jurors as usual, and see if I can persuade them to change their minds.
Defense will now embark on a summation examination. Are you and your fellows ready to proceed, Mr. Foreman?
We are, my lord.
Very well. In that case, I ask you now to state clearly for all present to hear the grounds on which each of you has decided that the defendant is guilty of the crime which he is charged. I've known that woman for years. She'd never be an accomplice to anything. It's utter nonsense to think those two would ever be conniving with one another. That's not quite your voice, but...
Oh dear, this is most troubling. But surely the waxwork the man stole has nothing to do with the coroner, is it?
I've had my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much. I've seen no rigorous proof that this waxwork was ever inside the birdcage. It's conjecture.
Accusing someone without right evidences is not a proper job, is he? I won't have it.
The other party you accused isn't the murderer, of course, therefore it's the scientist who has no motive at all.
What unsurprisingly, it seems the introduction of this waxwork model to the proceedings has polarized opinion. Given that its face is obscured and its build in no way resembles that of the victim, I can only applaud my learned friend's temerity at suggesting it as Mr. Assman's body double. Yes, the applause is deafening. And yes, I know it seems extraordinary. That's the point. That's why I have a strong feeling it's actually a greater clue than anyone yet realizes.
What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo?
I can't explain why at the moment, but I feel as though there's a specific reason why it was used, why it had to be this model.
Really? A reason why nothing else would do, you mean?
Yes, and I'm convinced. It's something far more significant than whether or not the model looked like the victim.
Well, if that's the case, we must prevent the trial from ending prematurely at all costs.
Yes, agreed. I have to find a way out of this. Already, Counsel, you may proceed with the summation examination.
Yes, my lord. Have a good night, Squiggles.
But I've known that woman for years. She'd never be an accomplice to anything.
Hold it! The order of things seem to have changed around here for some reason.
I'm a copper, lad. It's a copper's discretion, to bend the rules sometimes when needs must. What's wrong with that? Where do I start? I've been working in the yard for 40-odd years. That's even more than I thought. I've only had a metropolitan police service in town for 70 years, you know. Of course, times have changed. The public doesn't trust coppers back when I started. It was rough. We had to fight crime, and we had to fight to win the public's trust as well, and when we did. Forensic science was in its infancy, too. Even more than it is now, and spearheaded the revolution.
And she spearheaded the revolution. Dr. Scythe, you mean?
That's right. About 10 years ago now, it was when I was still a youngish Bobby on the beat. That's when she started making a name for herself as a top-class coroner. Now look at her, head of the forensic investigation team. And a woman, no less. Well, you won't hear me complain. It's what we all dreamt of back then, I tell you.
You tell me without holding that gun in the air?
We're all out to uphold justice, lad. Full of vim, we were, full of vim.
That's coming across loud and clear.
It's utter nonsense to think those two would ever be conniving with one another.
Hold it! But we're only just starting to understand this case.
What are you reading there, sir? The man behind those murders on Solar Pond Street was caught 2 days flat. That's real placing for you. That's really not relevant to this case, is it? You're wrong there. Because it was Dr. Scythe in charge of examining the bodies. There was evidence arising from her work that led to the arrest of the scoundrel responsible. Oh. That's right. Oh, that woman is the forefront of this country's fight against crime. The idea that she's somehow involved in this murky business is a load of old tosh. Thought it was up to me to press the jurors, not the other way around.
Oh dear, this is most troubling. But surely the waxwork the man stole has nothing to do with the coroner, is it?
Hold it!
Why would you assume that?
Well, quite simply because that unsettling swindler has no relationship with the woman, does he?
True. As it stands, we don't know of any connection.
Oh gosh, but it would be delightfully romantic if they were somehow to have mutual interest in the waxwork.
Romantic?
A woman of society such as myself views everything in terms of relationships, you know.
Well, you learn something new every day, even if you don't want to.
One might wonder about a possible relationship between the defendant and this coroner woman. Or perhaps between the defendant and the handsome prosecutor just there.
I'm not gonna lie, I am floored by the fact that they acknowledged that. I am genuinely caught off guard by that. Like, holy shit, they acknowledged it. They knew it. This woman may be more astute than I've been giving her credit for.
If that's the woman's stance, then perhaps demonstrating some connection between the waxwork and Dr. Scythe would be enough.
Yes, I agree. As soon as we have even a whiff of a connection, she'll be the first to know. I've had my own problems with the members of the police. I do not trust them much.
Hold it!
What sort of problems? Let's just say we've run into each other on numerous occasions while I've been performing on the street. Right, I see. Obviously, artists such as myself cannot appear on stage, as we work in close proximity to our audiences. So we perform our great magic in parks, on street corners and the like. But the police use any excuse to make our lives difficult.
Excuse me!
Do you have something to say in response to that, Mr. Ottermole? Were you calling a mass murderer? Sorry, my mistake. I got confused because I heard you look like him. I don't look anything like the man. Wanna be locked up, Sonny? Gun safety, motherfucker. Gun safety. Do you know it? Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Sholmes. Perhaps we could move on. Ow. Ow. I think I need to, like, start leaning the other direction. Perhaps we could move on. I was really wondering if you had something you wanted to add in response to what juror number 3 just said. And clearly you do. Back in my day, back in the good old days, wasn't like this. What was it like, sir? Worked our fingers to the bone to earn the public's trust, we did. By Jove, we earned it. They respected us back then. Respected you? One would have called a coroner into question in them days. The coroner's report was the hallmark of an investigation done right. Especially when Dr. Courtney Stevens put her name to it. Best of the best. Hold on a minute. What are you talking about? Who's Courtney Stevens? Sorry, got a bit carried away there. Stevens is Dr. Scythe's maiden name.
Her maiden name? So that was before she was married.
Of course, yes, silly me. It's Scythe now, isn't it?
When is the TF2 stream? I don't think I don't know how good of a stream, like a game, or not a game. I don't know how good of a stream game TF2 would make. Plus, it's not really my sort of game. The only competitive shooter that I'm really into is Splatoon, and I haven't touched Splatoon since the last Splatoon stream. So, yeah, it's been a hot minute. Yeah, I think the way that I lean, because I lean off to the right, I think the way that I lean and have my shoulders is like pulling a muscle in my shoulder, because I keep getting like a jolt down my shoulder every once in a while I'm like leaning off to the right. Still upset that Splatoon 3 isn't called Spleen.
Stevens. I'm sure I've seen that name somewhere recently.
Anyway, the point is, those were great days of policing, not like now.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. But do you think you could change your statement to include that name?
Well, yes, I don't see why not. Courtney Stevens, back when I knew her, of course. Legendary coroner, even then.
Oh. Oh no. This rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper, doesn't it?
Oh, whoops.
Sometimes they even cook up a story to extort monies from the poor.
Well, that's definitely not right.
Yes, and that's why I say that if you trust the police, you will have trouble. But here you are, claiming this waxwork model was stolen to star in an illusionary spectacular. The idea is so wild, I think I will take my chances and believe the authorities on this occasion.
This is how the public at large views Scotland Yard, is it?
Our own police force in Tokyo is not even 20 years old yet, is it? Perhaps we should view what's happened here in London as a measure of what may happen at home.
Yes, like a Scotland Yard stick. I wonder how a policeman would feel listening to the way this juror speaks about the force. Sure, he'd have a word or two to say in response.
See no rigorous proof that this waxwork was ever inside the birdcage. It's conjecture.
Hold it!
But you claimed the whole instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a trick.
But I did. There's more than one way to pull a rabbit out of a hat, isn't there?
Sorry?
Grant you, given this cage appeared from amidst an explosion, there'd have been no need to use a real person. Waxwork had been used. The culprit could at least have the decency to make it look like the victim.
I'm not sure exactly how much criminals are governed by decency.
Point is, if you're going to make a claim about that waxwork being inside the birdcage, you need to give us some evidence. Without that, it's just not science.
I suppose we should expect nothing less than a logical argument from the Fellow of the Royal Society. But that perhaps means his mind could be changed if we manage to present suitable evidence.
Evidence that the Professor Waxwork was inside that birdcage. Can I produce that or not? I have evidence. Actually, I have something I'd like you to see, sir. Oh? Must warn you that I firmly believe it's only wise to trust men in white coats. Given your jet black outfit, I don't mind admitting a sense of trepidation here. Don't trust anyone in black? Looking in the mirror must be very trying. I do have some evidence that proves the waxwork was inside that birdcage. Namely...
Take that!
What's that? Piece of glass? Oh, it's unusually thick for glass. Yes, it's a piece of broken glass that we found inside the jacket on the waxwork. As you say, it's not ordinary glass, though. It's very thick and clearly made for extra strength. Much like the special glass that was developed for the construction of the Crystal Tower. Crystal Tower? Holy smoke! Exactly. The centerpiece of the Great Exhibition, where the very incident we're talking about took place. On the day in question, the birdcage fell from above and smashed through a window of that special glass. Whence this small piece originated, is that it? Precisely. So, what do you say? Now that clear evidence in support of the assertion has been placed before you. Well, as I said, I only trust men in white coats as a rule. However, reasoning is sound. It's fair to say color shouldn't come into it. In light of what you've shown me here, yes, I feel obliged to change my position on the matter. In that case, juror number 4, you will amend your statement now, please. The presence of that piece of glass leaves me in little doubt. The waxwork was indeed inside the birdcage.
Hold it!
Thank you for reconsidering your position, sir. Words are misplaced, boy. My opinion is governed by logic and science, and nothing else. Yes, science is where you should direct your words of gratitude. What's the matter with you? Here to say some words of thanks to the mother of all academic subjects. What is it about scientists, honestly?
Accusing someone of that right evidences. He's not a proper job, is he? I won't have it.
Oh, whoops. I know it all seems a little far-fetched to think that the waxwork model of the professor was in that birdcage. On the other hand, it explains a lot.
If there really was a reason why that particular waxwork had to be used as Mr. Assman's double, we must do everything we can to make the jurors understand it.
Truth is, I'm sure that's the key to this, but it's the most puzzling part of it, too.
In that case, you should see what additional information you can glean, whilst trying to change the jurors' minds. If you can read a book whilst eating a rice cracker, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm sure you can do this.
Right, yes.
Hold it!
Scientists are insane. Source, am scientist. Gotta ask, why have you brought that corn into court with you?
Colonel Cobb,
Colonel Cobb.
he's been growing in the back of the farm. I picked him off on my way into town. He's a proper nibbler, he is.
Yes, the nibbling seems to be taking quite a while. Maybe it could wait until after the trial?
No, I don't like the sound of that. You need colonels at times like these. Whenever I've something big to decide, the colonels always point me in the right direction, see?
Yeah, you're talking about your cob of corn. Nibble nobble, guilty bubble. Nibble not guilty. This is auto-scrolling, by the way. Like, it auto-scrolled past the last, Xbox there.
Perhaps it's akin to fortune telling with flower petals like people do back home.
So Professor Hairbrain's fate is to be decided by a cob of corn. Did you not at least wait until we've had more time to find the truth before deciding on the defendant's guilt?
No, I don't know about that. My tum's awfully full already.
Amazing. Some low-hanging fruit there, Ryunosuke. Some very low-hanging fruit. Okay, so... Show the waxwork the man stole has nothing to do with the coroner, is it? I've had my own problems with members of the police. I don't trust them much. The presence of that piece of glass leaves a little doubt that the waxwork was indeed inside that birdcage.
Hold it!
Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to press. I meant to hit. I kind of want to send it here. Because, you could possibly draw the connection from that. I'm just not confident. See, this... The issue with this is that, like... This could work if I was able to present the evidence that actually made that link. But I don't think that this as-is works. Because I do have a piece of evidence that corroborates this.
Objection!
No music, stop. Waxwork demands... It's not these two, is it? Yeah, my issue is that I can't present evidence. You can only... Unless you get, like, a text box pop-up that's like, hey, present evidence, you can't present evidence while doing the summation examination.
Hold it!
Why would you assume that?
Objection!
Nope. Huh. This is hard. Like, genuinely.
Hold it!
I'm pretty sure we have. Just starting to understand this case. What are you reading there, sir? And those murders on Solar Pond Street was caught in 2 days flat. There. Oh, wait, did we not press juror number 6 again? No, he's the first statement, though. He's statement number 1, but he's juror number 6. She was legendary, was she? What did you say? That woman is still the best coroner in the land, head of the forensic investigation team. Legendary was your description, sir, not mine. Rubbish, that word never passed my lips. Never describe anybody that way, ever. Not if they were still in the game. I think the point you're trying to make is that Dr. Scythe is an extremely talented coroner. Would that be fair? It would. Or for the fact that you're trying to drag the legendary woman's reputation through the mud. I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that, legendary. See, that didn't give us any new information.
Hold it!
Sort of problems, yep. Two and 6 and 4 and 5.
Objection!
This is like genuinely, like this is the most stumped I've been on an Ace Attorney like bit in a hot minute. See, I don't think that 2 and 6.
Objection!
What? Those two statements clearly contradict each other. How the fuck do they contradict each other? They do not contradict each other. Good gracious. To whose statements do you refer, counsel? So, juror number 2.
Oh gosh, me? What can I do for you?
I presume that you heard what juror number 6 said in his statement. It's brought to light the maiden name of the coroner, Dr. Scythe, which in turn has revealed connection that wasn't apparent before.
Well, naturally. As a woman of society, I find such connections and relationships irresistible. But oh golly, I'm afraid I fail to see what you mean.
Okay, my problem with this is that the two statements in themselves don't contradict. You have to function off of an implied contradiction, which 99% of the time in Ace Attorney, if you're functioning off of implied contradictions, you are one step ahead of what the game wants you to be doing. Dr. Scythe's maiden name is Stevens, and through that name, the coroner is very definitely linked to the waxwork of the killer. The defense has evidence to prove it.
My goodness, evidence you say? How utterly enthralling.
So the court could not overlook that last remark. I very much hope that there is substance to your claim. Of course, my lord. I would ask the court to look at this. Like, okay, the whole falling 30 feet thing, where I presented the hole, like, I was apparently a step ahead for that, but...
Take that!
I have here a certain autopsy report from 10 years ago. 10-year-old autopsy report? What relevance does that have? It is, of course, from the autopsy of the person portrayed in the waxwork, the killer known as the Professor. Professors? The man was a capital offender, so... That's right. This is the certification of death that was drawn up after the convict's execution. Either that, or make the police officer refer back to the Professor case. Like, just throw in a bit about how he's like, oh, you know, I remember how quickly she worked back on the Professor case, or whatever shit. Like, that's just off the top of my head. That would have made the connection significantly easier. Like, it would have made it much more, like, cohesive, you know? That's right. This is the certification of death that was drawn up after the convict's execution. The identity of the killer was never made public, so the report gives few details. But what's important is the name of the coroner who wrote it. Courtney Stevens.
Oh my, Courtney Stevens.
Strike a light. It appears that the professor's autopsy was conducted by Dr. Scythe 10 years ago. And a few days ago, Mr. Drebber very deliberately stole the waxwork of the professor from Madame Two-Spells. A waxwork that doesn't, in fact, resemble the victim, Mr. Assman, at all.
And do you suppose there's some unsavory relationship between those events?
Absolutely, I'm sure of it. There's no doubt in my mind that the Professor case is at the heart of a link that we have yet to uncover. between Dr. Courtney Scythe and Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Hidden links, mysterious connections, secret relationships. This is almost extraordinary. We're surely obliged now to explore this further.
Eggnog Drebber. Right, we can't let this trial come to an end now. Not while there's a cloud of suspicion hanging over the yard's best coroner. Like this in my day, we're still here to uphold the justice in the end.
She's a fanfiction kind of gal, absolutely. She also definitely lives with another woman who is her quote-unquote best friend. She has that energy. You mean they were roommates? Yeah. Maybe this is juror 4 and 5?
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious. Whose statements do you refer, counsel?
Boy, I can't wait for Van Zieks to call the jurors dumbasses. Yeah.
If you could put down your corn for a moment, juror number 5.
Oh, you mean me?
You've pointed out that it's wrong to make an accusation without evidence. Ow. The accusation that the waxwork model was inside the second birdcage on the day in question is not without supporting evidence, as the defense demonstrated to the juror sitting beside you.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, whoops. Would it be fair to say you didn't follow the argument?
I don't understand much beside Colonel Cobb, to be honest.
Of course you don't.
I could interject here.
Please do, sir. Yeah, this is the first summation examination we've had. Juror number 5 up there with Gregson with the infinite food glitch.
This assertion of yours about the waxwork has been backed up by some solid evidence. It would be wrong of me as a man of science to not pursue the matter further.
Well, me too then.
Sorry?
If this brainy gentleman says he's right, then he must be. And see, I wouldn't dream of going against Colonel Cobb or anyone who's got stuff in between the ears.
Success. If you can call it that.
Thank you, counsel. That will do. As a result of the summation examination, the jury's overall leaning has changed. 2 jurors now called guilty, against 4 who call not guilty. Accordingly, the court has failed to reach a consensus at this time. The trial must continue.
We did it.
Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Another wonderful victory.
Waxwork of the despicable professor, used as a body double for the victim in this quite extraordinary case.
We did it! We convinced those dumbass jurors, yeah.
I must say, it's extremely hard to believe the assertion could possibly be true. However, it would appear that it does at least warrant further investigation.
It's the waxwork of the professor that links Mr. Drebber and Dr. Scythe. And I'm convinced that there's a special significance to that link.
Oh, you're hoping to prove that? I really don't.
The truth, sir, by using evidence and testimony.
If the court is to delve deeper into the alleged involvement of the waxwork in this case, then the prosecution calls for the owner of the model to be summoned as a witness. The owner?
Why are we not summoning Scythe as a witness?
Madame Two Spells.
I really thought the Lord Van Zeeks would object to this whole line of inquiry.
Very well, I concur. Make arrangements for Madame Two Spells to appear as a witness with immediate effect. Listen carefully, my learned friend.
Oh, yes?
You should know that you're on the brink of opening Pandora's box. Court shall now adjourn for 45 minutes. During that time, the prosecution will summon the new witness and prepare her for talking to the stand.
Or for taking a stand.
Madame Two Spells, yes. I shall see to it at once, my lord.
Van Zeeks is sick of jurors being dumbasses who don't have well thought out logic. I think Naruhodo is as well. Because he's the one that has to keep doing the summation examinations. Also, holy fuck, we're still going on this case. How are we still going? This is like the 4th episode we've been on this case alone. This is a long case. I'm scared about case 4 and 5. I'm scared that they're gonna be just as long. But yeah, give me just a sec. Exclamation point Discord if you want to join the Discord. Exclamation point socials if you want to follow the VODs channel and whatever. Otherwise, give me just a moment and we'll find someone to raid. Okay, who to raid? Is Sin still going? So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I should hopefully be streaming more of this tomorrow. What else? I don't know. YouTube shit. Yeah, I guess, have a good one, and take care.